The 8th of January 1945. The Bungo Strait, Japan's front door, a maritime gauntlet 20 miles wide, flanked by coastal artillery, seeded with minefields, and patrolled by the most fanatical hunter-killer groups of the Imperial Japanese Navy. Its purpose is not defense. It is extermination. Any vessel that enters here is, by the cold calculus of war, already dead. The water is a grave waiting to be filled. At 2:14 a.m., running at a depth of 190 feet, the USS Sabretooth ceases to exist. It does not explode. It does not cry out. The first symptom of its death is a hollow metallic gong that reverberates through the entire pressure hull, followed by a shudder that shakes rivets loose from their fittings. Every man aboard is thrown off his feet. In the red-lit control room, Commander James Max Mackenzie tastes copper, taste of bulkheads bleeding seawater. The hydrophone operator's voice is a monotone of horror, multiple fast screws bearing 030. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe for more. Closing. They have us. A Japanese destroyer has just depth charged them by accident. A blind, random pattern that has found its mark. The enemy doesn't even know Sabretooth is there. Not yet. But now she is wounded. She leaves a trail of oil and air bubbles, a neon path to her coffin. Mackenzie looks at his plotting board to the west. The open Pacific, escape, survival. But survival is an illusion. The crippled sub cannot outrun the pack to the east. The coast of Shikoku, the heart of the enemy's empire, and the Bungo's treacherous, shallow shoals. A death trap within a death trap. His executive officer, Lieutenant Commander Ed Walsh, meets his gaze. The order is obvious. The manual is clear. Dive deep, if you can, and run silent. Hope the hunters lose the scent. It is the only logical choice. Mackenzie does not give the logical order. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe for more. He points to the chart to a jagged, unnamed inlet on Shikoku's coast, a place marked only with the cartographer's warning, unsurveyed. Navigational hazard. Helm, Mackenzie says, his voice cutting through the panic. Come to new course 090, all ahead full. Take us into the shallows. Walsh stares at him, the blood draining from his face. He is not hearing an order. He is hearing a death sentence, written by his own captain. To run toward the enemy coast into water so shallow the sub's keel will scrape the seabed, where every turn is a potential burial. Captain Walsh whispers, the protocol of rank, the only thing holding his terror in check. That's suicide. The charts show nothing there, nothing but rocks. Another depth charge detonates. Closer this time, the lights flicker. A pipe bursts in the aft torpedo room. The screams are faint, distant, swallowed by the groan of straining steel. Mackenzie doesn't blink. The charts are wrong, Ed, they have to be. Because our only other option is to die out here in the deep water. And I am not ready to die. He has just committed his boat and his crew to a navigational nightmare. To run aground means capture and a ritual execution. To be detected means being torn apart in water too shallow to dive. Their only hope is a lie on a map, and the hunters are now turning, their screws beating a faster, hungrier rhythm. They have caught the scent of blood. The laws of physics become the enemy. As Sabretooth angles toward the coast, the ocean floor rises to meet her like a closing fist. The sonar pings of the destroyer, grouping ping-no mix with the terrifying. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe for more. High-frequency shriek of the subzone fathometer. The depth gauge needles spin counterclockwise. 180 feet, 160, 120. The safe, dark embrace of the deep is gone. 90 feet. Captain, the diving officer calls out. His voice strained. They are now a skyscraper lying on its side, visible to any look. Out sea floor rising rapidly. Keep her steady, Mackenzie orders, his eyes locked on the chart. The unsurveyed hazard is a blank white space, an admission of ignorance. In that void, he is gambling 87 lives on a theory. He believes the Japanese, confident in their coastal defenses, never bothered to chart their own backyard in detail. A hidden cleft, a deep water trench, something must exist. History insists he is wrong. A new sound joins the chaos. A low, grinding moan that courses through the deck plates. Every man feels it in his teeth. The keel has just kissed the mud of the continental shelf, bottom contact. Walsh barks, the Japanese hydrophone operators hear it too. The destroyer screws change pitch, shifting from a surge pattern to a sprint. They know their wounded prey is trying to hide in the shallows. It is a tactic of desperation, and it has just confirmed Sabertooth's exact location. In the conning tower, Mackenzie makes a calculation that defies every instinct. All stop release oil canister from forward waistline. Let it bloom on the surface right here. He turns to Walsh, whose expression is one of pure disbelief. We are going to play dead. It is a grotesque pantomime. They will leak their precious lubricating oil, simulate a catastrophic hull rupture, and sink motionless to the bottom. They will become a static, silent wreck, and they will do it in 85 feet of water, where the destroyer's sonar can paint a perfect immobile picture of them. The crew obeys, the oil slicks the surface above them. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe for more. Sabertooth settles into the soft silt with a final, sickening lurch. A sentry waiting to see if the carcass twitches. Walsh leans close to Mackenzie, the words barely audible. They're waiting for us to move, Mac. They're not convinced. Mackenzie looks at the depth gauge. They are sitting at 82 feet. The top of their conning tower is 67 feet below the surface. A Japanese sailor with a weighted line could theoretically hit them. Then, a new sound, a high-pitched, mechanical whirring, descending through the water column directly overhead. It is not a depth charge. It is something worse. It is the sound of a meticulous, probing eye. The destroyer has launched a Kaitina manned torpedonaut to explode, but to visually inspect the wreck on the seabed. A spotlight cuts through the murk, sweeping toward them. The beam of light is a physical violation. It cuts through the dark water, illuminating swirling silt and dead plankton, inching toward the sub's black hull in the control room. Men freeze, not in discipline, but in primal terror. The Chiton's pilot, a fanatic in a suicide craft, is performing a post-mortem. One glimpse of an undamaged propeller, a modern hull shape, and the charade ends in a cataclysm. Mackenzie's mind races. To start the engines is to scream their survival. To fire a torpedo is to reveal their position and armament. They have only one weapon, absolute stillness. The spotlight crawls along the starboard side, pausing at the forward dive planes. They are slightly dented from the earlier charge. The light lingers. Aboard the Chiton, the pilot is radioing his observations back to the destroyer. Then, fate intervenes. The oil slick they released, their own false death shroud, now works in their favor. A thick, viscous globule of oil drifts down directly into the path of the Chiton's spotlight. The beam diffuses, turning the water into an opaque, golden, brown fog. The pilot, frustrated, maneuvers his craft, trying to clear his view. The movement kicks up silt from the seabed. A great billowing cloud of gray mud erupts, enveloping both the Sabertooth and the searching Chiton in a total visual blackout. On the destroyer's bridge, the commander loses his patience. The wreck is clearly there, and it is clearly destroyed. The oil, the silence, If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe for more. Apparent damage it is enough. He has a wider war to fight. The Sentry destroyer's screws increase to flank speed, joining its group heading back to the Straits patrol lane. The hydrophones confirm it. The hunters are leaving. No one celebrates. The cloud of silt settles with agonizing slowness, revealing their submarine once more, buried up to its keel in muck. They are not saved, they are entombed. They are trapped in 85 feet of water, 2 miles off a hostile coast, in a submarine that may not have the power to unstick itself from its own grave. Walsh breaks the silence. Engineering reports multiple leaks on the outer hull. Captain Battery Well is compromised. We're taking on water in the forward compartment. We can't stay here. Mackenzie studies the uncharted chart. We're not staying. We're going further in. The order is met with stunned silence. They are to proceed into the unsurveyed hazard, navigating blind through a potential minefield of rock spires with a damaged boat on a single battery charge that is leaching acid into the bilge. It is not a retreat. It is a crawl into the unknown, deeper into the wolf's den, because the open ocean is now a wall of death. They move like a ghost. With agonizing slowness, Sabertooth uses its remaining battery power to creep eastward, staying just feet above the jagged seabed. The fathometer is their only guide, its persistent shriek a soundtrack to their blindness. Every man becomes a listener, hearing groans and creaks not as metal stress, but as the first touch of granite against steel for 6 hours. This is their world, a slow-motion nightmare of shadows and echoes. Then, at 08:00, the sound of the ocean changes. The relentless crash of open surf against a sheer coast softens. The hydrophones pick up a new acoustic signature: the slap of waves against pilings, the hollow bump of boats against docks, the distant, rhythmic thrum of machinery. Human sounds. Mackenzie orders a periscope depth observation. It is a risk that could unveil them in an instant. The scope breaks the surface for 8 seconds. What Mac sees through the lens defies comprehension. He is not looking at a simple fishing village. He is looking at a secret tucked into a narrow, steep, walled fjord. Invisible from the sea and the air is a complex of camouflaged dry docks and workshops. The skeletal hulls of midget submarines rest on cradles. Nets draped with foliage conceal the shapes of coastal defense vessels. This is not a major naval base. It is a hidden nest, a manufacturing and staging point for Japan's last-ditch suicide forces. A place so secret it doesn't exist on any Allied map, and it is utterly complacent. No patrol boats guard. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe for more. The entrance. Lookouts scan the sea, not the inland waterway. They feel protected by geography and secrecy. Mackenzie lowers the scope. His face is pale. They've built a hornet's nest in their attic, he whispers to Walsh, and we are in the wall. They have found salvation of a kind. The deep-water fjord provides perfect concealment, but it is also a cage. They are sharing a pond with the enemy. One wrong sound, one curious fisherman, one dropped tool that echoes underwater, and 87 American sailors will be dragged from their steel tube and beheaded on the docks above them. Their mission has just inverted. Survival no longer means escape. It means existing undetected for an unknown duration, days, perhaps weeks, in the middle of an active enemy base while their boat slowly dies around them. They must become a part of the landscape, a silent metallic tumor in Japan's side. The calculus of survival becomes microscopic. Every action is measured in decibels. Meals are cold cans, eaten in silence. Repair teams work with padded tools, communicating by touch and gesture. The crew exists in a twilight state, speaking in whispers, moving in slow motion. They adopt the enemy's schedule, charging their depleted batteries only at night, when the hum of the base's generators might mask their own. They become auditors of war through the periscope at careful intervals. They catalog the base's routine. They watch chitin pilots being rowed out to their craft at dawn. They see the delivery barges bringing in fuel and parts. They memorize the shift changes, the guard patrols, the comings and goings of officers. Walsh keeps the log. Day 3. Fresh water ration reduced by half. Battery efficiency at Sishar. Atmospheric CO rising, morale unsustainable. The psychological pressure is a heavier weight than the ocean above them. Men jump at the sound of their own heartbeat. Sleep is impossible. The dream of being discovered bleeds into waking terror. They are not warriors anymore. They are prey, hiding in the den of the predator. On the 5th day, the fragile routine shatters. A new sound vibrates through the hull, a deep, resonant thrum that has no place in a small boat workshop. Mackenzie risks another periscope observation. His blood turns to ice. A Japanese fleet submarine, an I-boat larger and more modern than their own, is entering the fjord. It glides past their position, so close they can see the rust on its anchor chain. It docks at the largest camouflaged pier. This changes everything. The I-boat is a hunter of their own kind. Its crew possesses the acute trained senses to detect another submarine's presence. Its sensitive hydrophones could pick up the faint whir of saber-toothed circulation pumps, the drip of a condensate line. Their refuge is now compromised. They are no longer hiding from dock workers and suicide pilots. They are hiding from their direct counterparts, experts who know every sound a submarine makes, even the sound of a submarine trying not to exist. The I-boat's arrival is a death sentence on a timer. Its crew will conduct maintenance, test equipment, run their own hydrophones. It is only a matter of time. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe for more. Mac now faces an impossible choice: wait and be discovered, or attempt an escape in a crippled boat in broad daylight, past a fully armed enemy submarine and an entire base now on high alert. Both options lead to destruction. Mackenzie makes his decision not from courage but from a cold assessment of decay. His boat is dying. The air is stale and toxic. The men are shadows. To wait is to asphyxiate slowly, both physically and spiritually, only to be killed at the end. He chooses the sharp end. We leave tonight, he tells his officers in the red gloom. We have one advantage. They think they are alone. The plan is a masterpiece of audacious theft. They will not slink away. They will use the enemy's own routine as a cloak. The The nightly test of the base's generators creates a 30-minute window of heightened background noise. During that window, Sabretooth will attempt what no submarine manual has ever contemplated: a silent, dead stick descent of the fjord, using only the tidal current and minimal furtive bursts of power to steer. They will become a piece of drifting debris. As dusk falls, they make their final preparations. Every non-essential system is shut down. The crew mans their stations, not as sailors, but as pallbearers. At 2100, the base's power plant ramps up for its daily load test. The familiar thrum deepens, vibrating through the water. "Release forward mooring line," Mackenzie whispers. The line that's secretly attached to a sunken log days earlier goes slack. Sabretooth is adrift. The current grips them. Slowly, agonizingly slowly, the black shape begins to move backward down the fjord. The control room is a tomb. Men stare at depth gauges and bearing rings, making infinitesimal adjustments with the rudder. They pass within 200 yards of the docked I-boat. Its hull is a dark mountain against the dim shore lights. Then, the unforeseen. A small launch putters away from the I-boat, heading toward the base headquarters. It alters course, crossing the fjord. Its path will intersect with Sabretooth's drifting hull. On the bridge of the launch, a junior officer idly scans the water with a flashlight. The beam swings out, skims the surface. It catches the very tip of Sabretooth's periscope shears. Protruding just above the water, the beam stops. It holds on the launch. The officer leans forward, squinting. Has seen something: a piece of flotsam, a fishing net buoy. He shouts an order to the coxswain. The launch's engine note changes. It is turning. It is coming to investigate. Inside Sabretooth, the hydrophone operator hears it all. The change in engine pitch, the closing screws. Mac and Walsh lock eyes. They are seconds from being illuminated, identified, and blown to pieces. They are utterly helpless, a drifting hulk. Centering on the mysterious object in the water, instinct overrides protocol. In the torpedo director's seat, a young lieutenant named Vargas acts without orders. He knows the firing circuits are dead to save power, but the forward torpedo tubes are loaded, the outer doors shut. He lunges for the manual hydraulic override for tube 1. With a grunt of effort, he slams the lever. There is a deep, muffled thump that shakes the entire forward compartment. Not the violent ejection of a fired torpedo, but the sound of high-pressure air exploding inside the sealed tube, blowing the torpedo's propeller shaft and a gout of compressed air and water out of the tube's muzzle cap. The effect in the dark fjord is instantaneous and bizarre. A violent plume of white water erupts on the surface 20 yards ahead of the periscope, followed by the metallic screech of shearing metal and a loud hiss of air. To the Japanese officer on the launch, it looks and sounds precisely like a submarine's torpedo tube suffering a catastrophic, wet fire malfunction. He doesn't see an enemy. He sees a disaster aboard the secret boat, a potential sinking at its own dock. He immediately abandons his investigation, shouting new orders. The launch whips around, its spotlight now racing back toward the docked submarine, its horn blaring an alarm. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe for more. Inside Sabretooth, the gamble has worked. They have created a diversion by simulating an accident on the very boat their hunters fear for. But the cost is immense. The explosive decompression has damaged their number one tube, and the violent outrush of air has left a bubbling, frothing trail on the surface, a path pointing directly back to them. All ahead. 1/3, left full rudder. Dive to 60 feet, Mackenzie barks, the silence irrevocably broken. The electric motors wind to life. Sabretooth shudders, gains way, and turns toward the fjord's mouth. Now a narrow black slit against the starry sky behind them. The base erupts into chaos, klaxons wail, searchlights stab the darkness, but they are aimed at the dock, not the fleeing phantom. They have broken cover, but they are not free. They are now a known quarry, sprinting for the gate of a prison that is suddenly, violently awake. Ahead lies the Bungo Strait, still patrolled by the very destroyer group that killed them days before. They are charging from one trap into the jaws of another. They reach the mouth of the fjord as the base's general quarters alarm still echoes off the cliffs. The open strait awaits a 2-mile-wide channel of black water, backlit by a rising moon. It is a killing field. Upscope, Mackenzie's sweep is swift. His worst fear is confirmed. To the north, the distinct silhouettes of two destroyers, Their bows throwing up white water are cutting across the strait's entrance. They have been called, the hunt is renewed. Saber-tooth's options have collapsed. They cannot dive deep, the shallow shelf persists. They cannot outrun surface ships. Their battery is bleeding its last life into the motors. The only path left is the one that appears most suicidal. The southern shoals, a labyrinth of rock islands and crashing surf marked as impassable on every chart. Helm, come to course 1. 7. 0. All ahead flank. The order is quiet. Final Walsh looks at the chart of the shoals, a spiderweb of depth contours and hatchered danger symbols. Mac, there is no channel. It's a blender. It's the only thing they might not follow us into. Mac replies, his voice stripped of all emotion. Plot a course for the loudest water. They are seeking salvation in cacophony. They will hide their engine noise in the thunder of waves breaking on rocks, and their silhouette in the white foam and shadow of barren islets. It is navigation by catastrophe. The destroyers spot them. Shells begin to fall. Great geysers of water erupting around them as they flee toward the maelstrom of the shoals. A near miss shakes the boat violently. A leak springs in the control room overhead. He is wrong. The sea here recognizes no allegiance. A massive, unseen reef tears into the destroyer's hull with a sound like the world ending. The warship lists violently, its forward momentum driving it onto the teeth of the rock. Its own depth charges, armed and ready on its stern racks, detonate in a sympathetic colossal eruption. The shockwave hits Saber-tooth like a giant's fist, throwing men to the deck and plunging them into darkness as circuits blow. When the emergency lamps flicker on, they are drifting, powerless, toward a towering black rock spire, the dying flames of the destroyer illuminating their final seconds. The Pacific, vast and empty, offers no sanctuary. Dawn finds the USS Saber-tooth a grotesque silhouette against the rising sun. Her hull is scarred with dense and weeping rust. One periscope is bent at a drunken angle. She makes way at a pitiful 6 knots, her single diesel engine running hot, a trail of gray smoke betraying her position to any eye on the horizon. They are free of the strait, but not of the war. Every moment on the surface is an invitation to a Japanese patrol plane or a roaming submarine. Their radio is silent. To transmit is to broadcast a beacon for the hunters they know are still searching. They are alone. A ghost ship with a living crew, sailing a no man's land between a hostile shore and a distant, uncertain rescue. In the wardroom, Mac and Walsh face the numbers. They have food for 5 days on starvation rations. Fresh water is critically low. The engine will not last 48 hours. Their position, by dead reckoning through the chaos of the shoals, is a guess. They are a slow-moving target, incapable of diving, incapable of fighting. We head for the recovery zone, Mackenzie states, pointing to a shaded area on the chart, hundreds of miles to the southeast. It is a grid where lifeguard submarines are sometimes posted to rescue downed aviators. It is a pinprick of hope in an ocean of despair. The mood aboard is one of hollow-eyed detachment. The men have passed through terror into a state of numb endurance. They perform their duties, but the spirit that fought to survive the fjord has been spent. They are waiting for the next blow to fall. It comes from an empty sky. At 1100 hours, the lookout's cry is raw with despair. Aircraft bearing 270 low angle. It is a Japanese Jake float plane, on a routine patrol, its course set to intersect theirs directly. It has already seen them. There is no time to deviate. They lack the power and the battery charge. There is nowhere to hide. The plane banks, turning for a closer look. It will identify them, radio their position, and then likely strafe or bomb them until they are dead in the water. Mac orders the few operable machine guns manned, a futile gesture against an aircraft. Then the pilot of the Jake makes a mistake born of overconfidence and routine. Instead of climbing to a safe altitude to report, he swoops low for a better identification pass, skimming just 50 feet above the waves. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe for more. He sees the American submarine markings, sees the damage, and sees what he believes is a helpless, doomed vessel. He does not see the desperation aboard. As he pulls out of his pass, he flies directly across Saber-tooth's bow, presenting a perfect, slow-profile target. It is an insult, a final taunt. On the forward deck, a gunner's mate named Finley, a man who hasn't slept in 72 hours, who watched his friend die in the forward compartment leak, who has breathed the stench of fear and battery acid for a week, does not think he acts. He swings the 20mm Oerlikon anti-aircraft gun on its mount. his hands moving by pure muscle memory. The manual says the gun's optimal range is 800 yards. The Jake is at 300. The manual says to lead the target. Finley aims directly at the cockpit. The manual says to fire in controlled bursts. He holds the trigger down. The world dissolves into the deafening, rhythmic thud-thud. Thud of the cannon, tracer rounds arc across the short span of water. Most miss, but at this range, it is a shotgun blast. 2 shells find their mark. One punches through the floatplane's fuel tank. The other shatters the cockpit glass. The Jake does not explode dramatically. It stutters in the air, trailing a thick plume of black smoke, then noses down into the ocean with a violent splash. It sinks in less than a minute. There are no survivors. The silence that follows is profound. No radio call was made. The Jake died before it could report. But the act has sealed their fate in a different way. The smoke from the downed plane and the diesel engine is a towering column in the still air. They have traded a swift death by radio for a slower, more certain death by exposure. Another patrol will see the smoke. A ship will investigate the wreckage. The clock is still ticking. Only now the world knows something has happened here. Mackenzie looks from the fading oil slick to the straining engine gauge. "All hands," he says, his voice carrying through the pipe. "Jettison all non-essential weight. Everything that isn't bolted down or keeping us alive. We have to make that zone." The crew begins a frenzied stripping of their own home torpedoes save 2. Spare parts, furniture, food lockersall are wrenched free and pushed over the side. It is the act of a starving man burning his own furniture for warmth. They are lightening the boat for a few more knots of speed, buying hours with their own possessions. The Sabertooth, already wounded, is now being cannibalized by her crew. She is a skeleton running on willpower and a single overheating engine, trailing a cloud of smoke and debris across the empty Pacific, praying to reach a square on a map before the hunters find the trail. The 54th hour of the surface run. The last diesel engine dies with a final, shuddering clang. A connecting rod stressed beyond all endurance has punched a hole through the crankcase. Thick black oil pools in the bilge. Sabertooth is dead in the water, a 300-foot-long G buoy, slowly rotating in the current. They have reached the estimated coordinates of the recovery zone. There is nothing there, only empty ocean to every horizon. The sun is a hammer. The last of the fresh water is gone. Men lie in the fetid heat of the boat, too weak to move to the deck. Delirium sets in, some whisper to loved ones. Others stare at bulkheads, seeing nothing. Mackenzie stands on the bridge, his eyes scouring the emptiness. He has led them through depth charges, through a secret base, through a labyrinth of rocks. He has gambled everything on this last square of ocean, and he is lost. History will record that the USS Sabertooth departed on patrol and never returned. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe for more. Presumed lost with all hands in the Bungo Strait, circa January 1945. Another anonymous entry in the long list of the missing. He is preparing the order to set the scuttling charge to deny the Japanese the prize of the boat. If a patrol finds them when Walsh, his voice a cracked whisper, points a trembling finger to the southeast. A periscope feather, a thin, almost imperceptible wake on the calm sea. Then another, 1,000 yards away. American submarines, not one, but 2, the USS Devilfish and the USS Tilefish, operating as a coordinated wolf pack, have come to the zone to rendezvous before a new patrol. They have seen the drifting, derelict hulk. Signal lamps flash. A question then, stunned recognition. What happens next is not recorded in dramatic action reports. It is a slow, agonizing rescue. Tenders are launched, emaciated. Sunburned men are carried from the deck of the Sabertooth. Mackenzie is the last to leave. He does not look back at his command. The Sabertooth, her secrets and her agony too deep to salvage, is sent to the bottom by a single torpedo from the Devilfish. She slips beneath the waves without a sound, leaving only a temporary whirlpool. In the sick bay of the Devilfish, under a clean sheet, Mackenzie gives his debrief. He speaks of the hidden base in the fjord, its coordinates, its purpose. The intelligence is radioed ahead. It is considered the delirious rambling of a sunstroke victim until reconnaissance photos, taken days later, confirm every detail. The nest is destroyed by carrier aircraft before it can launch its suicide craft in a final, desperate defense of the homeland. The crew of the Sabertooth survives. They return to a victory they cannot feel, to a world that moved on without them. There are no parades for missions that never officially happened. For victories measured only in survival, the official Navy report will list their findings as incidental. Their ordeal will be filed away classified, a footnote in the vast history of the war. But in the silent, dark moments for the men who were there, history is not a footnote. It is the sound of a grinding keel in shallow water. It is the beam of a searchlight in deep fjord darkness. It is the choice, moment by moment, to do the tactically insane, because the only other option was to lie down and die. They had entered the belly of the beast not as conquerors, but as ghosts. And by a thread of luck, steel and human will no thicker than a periscope's view, they had found their way back out. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe for more.